Hi. In 2014, I went to the US for the first time and found an accommodation in a big house which had 10 rooms. I had the key to the three-storied house. I opened the door and I did not see anyone in the house when I stepped in. It felt as if nobody stayed there. My room was in the basement, so I followed the creaky wooden steps and went down. There was another room next to mine. It also had a kitchen and a bath that I was supposed to share with my neighbor. I went inside the room and I started unpacking my bags. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. I got scared. Who could this be? I didn't know anyone in the city by then. What if somebody robs me? Where is my passport? All these thoughts started coming inside my head. However, I opened the door and peeped outside to see an old man standing in front of me. Old because of his hair and his skin, but he was tall and he looked strong. He asked me, "Are you my new neighbor?" And I instantly smiled and said, "Yes, I am." "Do you stay in the room next to mine?" I asked. And he said, "Yes." I immediately opened the doors for him and invited him inside and made him feel comfortable. We started having a conversation. He asked me the purpose of my visit, which college I would be teaching at, where I came from, etc., etc. Meanwhile, I also offered him some snacks that I had got from home, to which he politely refused. And then he asked me what would be the timings of me using the kitchen or the bath. I was clueless because this was the first time when somebody had asked me such a question. So I bought some time and I told him, "See, I feel that I'm really jet lagged right now, and this will take me some time to get into a routine. So, what I will do meanwhile is I will tell you beforehand when I'm going to use the kitchen or the bath by texting you." To which he was okay. So, we exchanged our numbers and then he left. Once he was in his room, he texted me. And the text was something like this. He wrote, "Hi, neighbor. It was great to meet you. I'm a fan of India and I really wish that you have a great time here. But there's a little piece of advice that I would like to give you. Please make sure that you don't invite people inside your room unless and until they are very close to you the next time. That's your personal space. People can misunderstand it for something else. You know what I mean?" I read the message and I thought to myself, personal space. And I started thinking of the situation back home. Now, I come from a middle class family and I grew up in a house with five members, my parents and my two sisters. It was a government quarter and there were two rooms, a hall, a kitchen, and a bath. I stayed in that house for 18 years. Needless to say that my parents, my sisters, and including me, we had built a very good network and social connections by then. As a result, our house would be swarmed by guests all the time. These guests were invited guests, uninvited guests, guests of guests, and some total strangers. It was a common practice that guests would arrive anytime at our place unannounced. We would do the same to them. Since we were three sisters and we all needed our space and time to study during exams, there were several occasions when one of us had to use the kitchen for study. Now, I did not see much of this as a problem until I was a child. But as I grew up, I realized that sometimes I got annoyed with the time I had to spend with the people I did not know or the people I did not want to be with. And I never realized that this annoyance was stemming up from the fact that my personal space was being invaded constantly. Now, what is personal space? Let's understand that. Neuroscientist Michael Graziano, he's also the author of The Spaces Between Us. He tells us that the brain computes a buffer zone around the body. It's like a second skin that is hardwired into our DNA. It changes with the size and context. He tells that personal space also differs in size with the status of a person. For example, more affluent people tend to have larger personal space zone. We share this space with our close ones like family members or friends or partners. Graziano also explains that personal space is built as a part of scaffolding process through our social experiences. Because collectivist societies mostly have larger populations, the personal space is smaller in comparison to that of an individualistic society. And we get attuned to the people jostling into each other or dashing into each other in closed public space. However, I want to think of you this situation. Have you ever felt awkward when an unknown person stood too close to you in an elevator? I'm sure you get very conscious that no part of the body is in contact with that stranger. You try your best in maintaining a distance with that person, either by converging your body or avoiding eye contact with that person or looking in different direction, maybe looking at your phone. But you ensure that the person may be in proximity with you in terms of distance, but mentally that person is not a part of your personal space. You give those signals to that person. However, if you feel that the person is still touching you, it makes you feel uncomfortable and you feel alarmed. So this shows that whether you are in an individualistic society or in a collectivist society, however big or small, everyone has a personal space. However, personal space is not just limited to physical distance. It also accounts for sensory invasions like strong smell or poor hygiene or loud noise or somebody asking personal questions. All these are also an invasion of your personal space. Any invasion, intrusion, or encroachment of that space can scare us, it can hurt us, or annoy us. Although this is something which has been much talked about in individualistic cultures like in the US or the Europe, personal space has not received a lot of attention in collectivist cultures like ours. So, why is personal space important, and why is it high time that we realize its importance in a collectivist culture? Personal space defines the nature of the relationship between individuals. It helps you in controlling the type of message individuals want to communicate to others with who they are interacting with. For example, when you are in a workplace and there are 5 colleagues, now one of the colleagues has become a good friend, so you have allowed that person to be in your personal space. Now, this person is your friend as well as your colleague, but the other people are only your colleagues. Next, personal space provides us protection from unwanted stressful stimuli. Several studies have confirmed that personal space is related to increase in physiological stress. The more and more people invade our personal space, the more information overload we receive that results into stress and anxiety. Also, invasion of personal space can result in damaged relationship with the person who invades that space because violation of personal space can be something that's deadly. So what are some of the challenges that we face in a collectivist society while respecting someone's personal space? We have not been taught to set boundaries. So it becomes very difficult for us to communicate with people about our uneasiness. When I opened the door for my neighbor, I invited him inside. I did not set a boundary clearly, and that is why it gave him a wrong signal. We mostly take no as an impolite behavior. In a collectivist culture, the goal of communication is more towards relationship building than towards information sharing. Therefore, most people in such cultures find it difficult to say no as it may result in hurting somebody else's sentiments. And third point is that we give more value to others than we give to ourselves because self-sacrifice is seen as a virtue. So what can we do to maintain personal space in collectivist cultures? The first thing is that be kind to people. Ask for someone's availability before arriving unannounced at their place. Or if you want to make a call at an odd hour, please ask them by texting them beforehand. Second thing is be mindful of the environment. Avoid talking loudly in public space or wearing strong perfume at workplace or staring at somebody when you are traveling in a public transport. Communicate clearly. If you are uncomfortable with someone coming into your personal space, communicate clearly. I'll give you an example. Recently, when I was flying by air, my seat was a window seat, and there was a person who was already seated at the aisle seat, and I had to get through. So I asked the person to move, but the person just pulled in his legs and created some space so that I could walk through. But I knew that I would still be in very close proximity with the person. So I told him to please get off. And then I walked inside, I took my seat, and then I thanked the person for doing that for me. So I communicated it very clearly that I want him to do this because I was uncomfortable. The last point is to learn to read body language of others. It is very important to sensitize yourself, to read the signals that you have gotten too close to a person or your question are too personal for a person to answer. For example, we have all faced situations where we travel either by train or bus and people ask us very personal questions like, are you married? Do you have kids? Why don't you have kids at this age? Or they also ask you about your salary. And sometimes these questions become very annoying. So it's important that you read the body language of the person and tell them if it's okay if you don't want to answer it. If the person is willing to answer, the person will go ahead. If the person is not willing to answer, the person will just keep quiet. And this will not damage the dynamics between the two persons or the two people who are in conversation. By learning how to uphold other people's boundaries and considering the privacy needs in others, you can ensure that you treat everyone with respect. Now, respecting personal space in a collectivist society will not dilute the essence of it and make us more individualistic. It is the need of the hour. Just like we moved from using community toilets to personal toilets, we understood the importance of personal space. Therefore, maintaining personal space will ensure your well being as well as it will strengthen your relationship with others. Thank you.